I'm really honored to welcome you to this official launch of the Climate Change Teach-In.
These are problems where we have known for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, damaging to our world, damaging to ourselves. But for some reason we don't seem to have figured out a way to move forward.
And that we as a community have arrived at this point of deepening the conversation together around the climate issue. This is a conversation that is so vital, needs to be happening here, in higher ed as a whole, and between people everywhere.
Now, the cumulative snow story is a very different one than at any single event. And what I want to show you here, this is for Worcester. This is your experience in a graph. When you look at that brown line, the second one from the bottom, that is what you should expect, what kind of winter you should expect. It was about 50, not quite 50 inches of accumulation over the course of a winter. Now, about, let's see, maybe a quarter of that is what the least snowy winter has ever brought. That one was in 1955. And the worst you've had until recently was the one in 2005. You've busted that record outright this year. More moisture in the air, which together with more moisture and colder airs on land has been this perpetual snowblower that has brought you one snowstorm after another this entire winter. Now it's important to put this into a larger context. Everywhere else, it's been hotter. Of record temperatures for 2014, and that of course stands in the context of a long-term warming trend. This is every decade in the recent past has been significantly warmer than anything that we've seen. 2014 has been globally acknowledged as the warmest year on record. It's the 38th consecutive warming. Raise your hands. Is 40 years or younger? Wow, look around. In your lifetimes, half of all the CO2 we have ever put in the atmosphere from our industrial activities, half of all of that has happened in your lifetime. The other half happened in the 260 years before that. But it brings me to today. Think about what you could get just a little taste of today.
who want to do something about it, and the more people who are actually here at this event shows the media, shows the government that there are people who care about this. I think it's really terrifying that people don't believe in climate change, and I know some people, and they're really hard to like talk to because they have all these facts that prove that climate change is like not a thing, and I find that really terrifying trying to debate with them. And I think that going to the different teach-ins today will hopefully give me more perspectives on how to present the data to them to try to spread awareness of climate change.
The Long Rain by John Haynes. Rain falls in the quiet woods. Smoke hangs above the evening fire, fragrant with pitch. Alone, deep in the willow thicket, the olive thrush is singing.
Clones and stuff like this, but they're number 2. Slackers. But Massachusetts is number 1, and probably the biggest reason why Massachusetts is number 1 is because of the Green Communities Act and the ability of solution. when they passed those two, they changed the game for a lot of stuff.
Having the teach-in was like really productive, and also like having the eco-friendly and like only compostable like spray day was helpful. I think Clark uses a lot of like green energy, and like we all drink out of like water bottles obviously, and like prevent waste. I use all natural hairspray that doesn't hurt the environment. So.
I think climate change is a very, very, very serious problem, and people need to take it a bit more seriously. And I think one of the biggest challenges to making that happen is that people think that their small role won't make a difference since it's such a global phenomenon. But it actually takes one paper wrapper that instead of using it, you could recycle it. Recycling bottles, recycling anything that you really can to reduce our carbon footprint and make the change we want to see in the world. I think it's very interesting that Clark has the dual flush system in the toilets. The composting everywhere and the recycle bins. I was very, very happy that there was no landfill waste for Spree Day, which was very interesting, and I hope that most events are like that.
Awesome, thank you. Well, Clark actually is taking like a bunch of initiatives to not only like end climate change, but also to teach people about it. Like we had a teach-in a couple weeks ago, and a lot of the professors are, especially in the geography and environmental science department, are really focused on this issue.
Oh, a ton. Like
carbon emissions need to come down, like fuel processing, like we need to get off of fossil fuels.
Yeah. A large portion of emissions are made from the ridiculous amount of meat that we produce. Yeah. And we just could stop over producing meat.
Or we could stop overproducing it and producing it in a more efficient way.
Yeah.
Well, like a more like humane, first of all, but also like
just less amount. We throw away like I think it's like 8% of the meat that we create, and that's a lot of. Anyway, another thing is that when I went to Amsterdam, I noticed that like literally everyone has a bike and they bike most places.
Yeah.
And that does like a ton. Like economically, it hurts to do the right thing in terms of climate change and planetary health. However, there's a little ethical paradox because you're putting a price on not only nature, but your health in the future and future generations' health and ability to live. And that's just wrong. So,
in the long run, it actually ends up being more efficient towards the end.
Yeah.
Because eventually the economy won't necessarily matter on the level of ecology.
And
I know we had a climate change teach-in.
Like we had a teach-in a couple weeks ago.
Climate change teach-in. Climate change teach-in.